At 8:03 a.m. near Chasiv Yar, a Russian convoy suddenly stopped in open terrain. Moments later, through drifting smoke, the outline of an American-made tank appeared. Massive, silent, unmistakable. For the first time, Ukraine's M1A1 Abrams rolled into active combat, advancing beside an M2A2 Bradley and guided by reconnaissance drones circling above. The scene marked more than a clash of steel. It signaled a new phase in modern warfare where data, precision, and coordination decide who survives. Behind that moment stood the 47th Mechanized Brigade, the only Ukrainian unit trained to fight in true NATO style. Their mission was simple but historic: to prove whether Western machines could outthink, not just outgun, the Russian front. This turning point sets the stage for understanding how advanced hardware, trained crews, and modern tactics are reshaping a war once defined by attrition. When the first M1A1 Abrams tanks arrived in Ukraine in late 2023, they were not exactly the same as the ones used by US forces in Iraq or Kuwait. According to the American Security Project, these were export-safe variants, prepared so that sensitive electronics and armor materials would not fall into enemy hands. The most secret components, like depleted uranium layers and encrypted battle management software, were removed. Yet the core systems that define an Abrams remained untouched. Chobham composite armor, thermal imaging sights, and the digital fire control computer that allows a crew to hit a moving target while the tank itself is on the move. Each tank carries a 120mm smoothbore M256 gun built by Rheinmetall. It can fire the M829 kinetic energy penetrator, a dart-shaped round made of dense metal that punches through armor by pure speed rather than explosives. U.S. Army manuals show that this round leaves the barrel at nearly 1.7 kilometers per second, fast enough to cross a football field in less than a tenth of a second. The same gun is stabilized by a gyroscope so that, even over rough ground, the round stays locked on target. This is one reason Western analysts describe Abrams fire as surgical. Forbes noted that in recent fighting, Ukrainian crews use this precision to destroy Russian T-72B3 tanks from over 2 kilometers away. Supporting the Abrams is the M2A2 Bradley infantry fighting vehicle. While smaller, it is almost as crucial. The Bradley's 25mm M242 Bushmaster autocannon fires up to 200 rounds per minute, shredding light vehicles and enemy positions. For heavier targets, it carries Tau anti-tank missiles with a range of nearly 4 kilometers. In US doctrine, the Bradley moves beside tanks to protect them from infantry ambushes, while the tanks cover the Bradleys from long-range guns. Ukraine adopted this method for the first time, practicing what American units call tank-infantry fighting vehicle pairing. Footage verified by Newsweek showed Abrams and Bradleys advancing in the same formation near Chasiv Yar, their gunfire overlapping as drones above guided each shot. Although these machines are powerful, they are not indestructible. Without the U.S. Army's newest active protection systems such as Trophy or Iron Fist, the Ukrainian Abrams rely mainly on armor thickness and crew awareness. Russian forces have increased the use of Lancet loitering drones and Kornet missiles, which can attack from above where armor is thinner. Still, the Abrams Chobham plating, a mix of ceramics, metals, and composite layers, remains among the best defenses ever built. The Defense Post reported that one Abrams survived a near miss by a drone strike, its exterior blackened but its crew unharmed. What truly separates this hardware from the Soviet-era tanks still used by many Ukrainian brigades is situational awareness. Inside an Abrams, every crew member has independent thermal and day-night screens. The gunner can engage one target while the commander searches for another through a panoramic sight. That allows almost continuous fire, a feature absent in older T-series vehicles. The Bradley adds its own sensors and shares target data by radio. In practice, the two vehicles operate like parts of a single machine, moving, scanning, and firing as one networked system. There is also the question of logistics. Each Abrams weighs about 62 tons and consumes roughly 3 gallons of fuel per mile, meaning it needs constant refueling. Ukrainian engineers built special fuel convoys and maintenance points to keep them running. Reuters noted that spare parts, shipped from Poland, arrive weekly to prevent downtime. Despite these efforts, commanders use Abrams sparingly, often as a precision asset rather than a frontline workhorse. Still, even in limited numbers, their psychological impact is strong. Soldiers from nearby brigades told Business Insider that when the Abrams appeared at the front, morale jumped instantly. To them, it symbolized direct U.S. support and proof that Western technology could endure the harsh conditions of Eastern Europe. For Russian units on the other side, the sight of an Abrams turret emerging from smoke carries its own weight, the recognition that they are facing something designed to survive modern wars against peer enemies. Together, the Abrams and Bradley form a micro-ecosystem of firepower, blending armor, sensors, and mobility into one coordinated strike force. It is a concept familiar to American armored divisions, but entirely new to Ukraine's battlefield. Western analysts call it a qualitative leap because it replaces quantity with precision and coordination. Each engagement becomes a short, focused exchange rather than a prolonged duel. Drones mark the target, Abrams delivers the main shot, Bradley finishes with rapid fire, and both reposition before enemy artillery can respond. This combination, though small in scale, hints at what 21st century ground combat may look like. Fewer tanks, smarter movement, and full integration with unmanned systems. It also shows that technology alone cannot win. It must fit into doctrine, training, and supply. Every shell fired by an Abrams is backed by a chain of crews, mechanics, and fuel trucks stretching miles behind the line. That chain, not just the armor, decides whether the machine survives another day. Yet even the best equipment is only as effective as the people and doctrine guiding it. To see how these machines truly change the fight, we must look at the Ukrainian formation that commands them, the 47th Mechanized Brigade. The 47th Mechanized Brigade, known by its call sign Magura, was created in 2022 when Ukraine began forming new units to use Western equipment. According to BBC News, this brigade became one of the first to train directly with US and NATO instructors in Germany and Poland. The goal was clear: build a fully integrated battle group capable of fighting like a NATO armored formation, not a Soviet one. By 2024, Magura had turned into a modern mechanized force with tanks, infantry fighting vehicles, artillery, engineers, and its own drone reconnaissance teams. Each part of the unit now works as one synchronized system instead of separate pieces acting alone. During the spring of 2023, before the Abrams even arrived, the brigade was already known for operating M1A1 Bradley 1FVS, and German Leopard 2 tanks in limited numbers. This mix allowed soldiers to practice NATO-style maneuvers long before American armor joined them. Forbes noted that this early training gave the 47th an advantage when the M1A1 Abrams reached Ukraine a few months later. While other Ukrainian units still fought with older T-64 and T-72 tanks, Magura had already learned how to use digital fire control networks and Western communication systems. This difference in mindset turned them into Ukraine's test platform for advanced warfare. Inside the brigade, every element has a clear role. The armored battalions operate Abrams and Bradleys together in strike formations, while the artillery batteries stay behind to deliver precision fire guided by drones. The engineer companies build temporary crossings and clear minefields, and the reconnaissance platoons fly small UAVs that feed live video to the command post. As Defense Express explained, this structure lets the unit adapt within minutes to changes on the battlefield, something older Soviet formations cannot do. A commander watching drone footage can call for a tank strike, an artillery salvo, or an air defense response in the same chain of command. That level of flexibility is rare and shows how far Ukrainian command systems have evolved since 2022. Training was the foundation of this change. Between late 2022 and early 2023, hundreds of Ukrainian soldiers from the 47th Brigade trained at Grafenwehr base in Germany, under supervision of the U.S. Army's 7th Training Command. Reports from Reuters said the program lasted several months and included lessons on combined arms tactics, night operations, and rapid repair of Western vehicles. Soldiers learned to use digital maps, laser rangefinders, and target-sharing radios. Many of them had come from infantry units used to simple paper maps, so the transition to high-tech systems was massive. When they returned home, they became instructors for new recruits inside Ukraine, spreading the NATO-style knowledge throughout the army. In battle, the brigade's method follows the find, fix, finish principle used by Western forces. First, drones and reconnaissance units identify enemy positions. Then, artillery or Bradleys pin the enemy down with accurate fire. Finally, Abrams tanks move in to deliver the decisive blow. This process often happens within minutes, not hours. In the Chasiv Yar engagement documented in February 2024, drone feeds showed how this method worked in real time. An Abrams fired 5 rounds in 6 minutes, each guided by coordinates sent from a hovering UAV. That kind of speed and precision would have been impossible without the brigade's new command system and disciplined training. Leadership has also been key to the brigade's identity. Colonel Oleksandr Pavliuk, one of its early trainers, told Army Recognition that success comes from mixing old experience with new tools. Many senior officers once commanded Soviet-designed tanks, but adapted quickly to Western tactics. They encouraged crews to think independently rather than wait for orders from above. This culture shift made Magura faster, more flexible, and harder for Russia to predict. Analysts believe this mindset explains why the 47th often holds the line, even under heavy shelling near the Kursk Oblast frontier. Technology also defines the brigade's fighting style. Each Abrams and Bradley is linked to a secure data network that connects to drone operators and artillery observers. These links allow the crews to see what the UAVs see, turning seconds into life-saving reaction time. Forbes confirmed that the unit's drones stay airborne for up to 15 minutes per mission, long enough to adjust tank fire and confirm hits. This combination of eyes in the sky and precision armor gives the 47th a unique edge over units that rely only on traditional reconnaissance. But even with its high-tech structure, the brigade faces heavy challenges. Weather, electronic jamming, and ammunition shortages often limit drone flights and slow operations. Defense One, 2024, reported that Russian electronic warfare teams near Bakhmut have jammed Ukrainian signals, forcing drone operators to switch frequencies mid-battle. When this happens, commanders revert to manual coordination through radios, showing that even advanced systems must constantly adapt to the harsh environment of the Eastern Front. By mid-2024, the 47th Mechanized Brigade had earned a reputation as Ukraine's most modern armored formation. Western military observers call it a bridge between doctrines, a unit that blends NATO coordination with local experience of drone warfare. Its success or failure will likely decide how quickly other brigades can modernize in the coming years. Each mission, from Kursk to Chasiv Yar, becomes both a battle and a field test for the next generation of Ukrainian mechanized tactics. With trained crews, advanced coordination, and battlefield awareness, the 47th Brigade has proven it can operate like a Western force. What remains to be seen is how these tactics unfold under real fire, where Abrams and Bradleys must act together in the chaos of combat. At 8:03 a.m. near Chasiv Yar, a Russian convoy came to a halt under the gray morning sky. Within seconds, Ukrainian drones circling high above spotted the movement and relayed the coordinates to the 47th Mechanized Brigade's command post. Moments later, an M1A1 Abrams tank rolled forward beside an M2A2 Bradley, both engines roaring across the open field. The footage, confirmed by Newsweek, captured the first time American-made tanks and infantry vehicles fought together in Ukraine. Each drone worked as the brigade's eyes in the sky. Operators sitting several miles away watched live video feeds, marking enemy gun positions and bunkers on digital maps. Once the targets were confirmed, the Abrams crew locked onto them using its thermal sights, then fired the first round. The 120mm kinetic shell hit a Russian BMP-3 vehicle, and a second later, smoke covered the field. According to Forbes, the tank fired again just 12 seconds later, demonstrating its shoot-and-scoot pattern: fire, move, and fire again before Russian artillery could strike back. The Bradley 1FV played a different but equally important role. As the Abrams focused on armored targets, the Bradley's 25mm Bushmaster cannon rained fire on Russian infantry hidden behind tree lines. It fired in controlled bursts, covering the Abrams while it repositioned. BBC News, 2024, described this method as a mutual cover formation, where tanks and IFVs protect each other through constant movement and overlapping fields of fire. This teamwork kept both vehicles alive, even under the threat of anti-tank drones and artillery strikes. From 8:07 to 8:21, the battle followed a clear rhythm. Drones located, tanks struck, Bradleys suppressed, and both moved again. It became a repeating cycle: detect, strike, relocate, survive. Ukrainian soldiers later said this pattern saved them from multiple counterattacks because the Russians could never fix their position long enough to return fire. Defense One, 2024, reported that Ukrainian crews now train specifically in these rapid maneuver drills to reduce exposure time on open ground. These tactics mark a complete break from the static, trench-style fighting that defined much of the early war. Instead of holding ground, Ukraine now emphasizes mobility, precision, and coordination between drones and armor. The 47th Mechanized Brigade became a model for what Western experts call networked warfare, a system where every movement on the ground is guided by real-time data from above. This concept is not new to the US Army, but in Ukraine's open plains, it is being tested under the most dangerous conditions possible. The success of this method depends on discipline and timing. Abrams crews must fire, reload, and relocate within seconds, while communicating with drone operators who may be dozens of kilometers away. Bradley gunners must adjust fire on moving infantry while avoiding friendly targets. Commanders coordinate artillery support in the background, linking all actions into one chain of events. Any delay can expose the unit to Russian counter-battery fire or Lancet drones hunting for heat signatures. According to Forbes, in one 25-minute battle, a single Abrams fired 5 shells from 3 different positions, destroying 2 Russian vehicles and forcing a platoon to retreat. The Bradleys beside it fired dozens of 25mm rounds to cover the retreating infantry. Drones stayed overhead the entire time, scanning for movement and sending updates every few seconds. It was the kind of precise, high-tempo engagement Western trainers had envisioned when they first introduced combined arms tactics to Ukraine. But even this advanced coordination has limits. Russian forces now use electronic warfare systems to jam drone signals, cutting the link between the UAVs and ground units. When this happens, tank crews must rely on visual spotting or preset coordinates, which reduces accuracy. Analysts from BBC and Defense Express warn that such interference could make drone-guided strikes harder to execute during large-scale offensives. This challenge forces Ukraine to constantly adjust its methods, switching frequencies and adding backup drones to maintain contact. By the end of the engagement near Chasiv Yar, the coordination between Abrams, Bradley, and drones had produced a small but symbolic victory. Russian units withdrew from the area, leaving destroyed vehicles behind. To Ukrainian observers, this was proof that Western armor, when paired with UAV reconnaissance, could change not only tactics but the rhythm of the war itself. Every minute of that battle reflected how data and machines now shape life or death on the front lines. Yet even the smartest coordination cannot erase risk. As these machines face endless drone swarms and precision strikes, each success reveals both the power and the limits of modern warfare. The next part will look at how these vehicles perform under constant pressure and what happens when advanced technology meets the brutal reality of the battlefield. When the first Abrams tanks entered combat near Chasiv Yar in early 2024, expectations were high. Many believed these machines could tip the balance after months of slow progress. For a while, that belief seemed true. In several engagements, Abrams units from the 47th Mechanized Brigade destroyed Russian positions with precision and speed. Forbes reported that one tank eliminated a T-72B3 from more than 2 kilometers away, while its partner Bradley vehicles suppressed enemy infantry during the same fight. On paper, Abrams delivered overwhelming firepower, neutralizing multiple targets and forcing entire Russian squads to retreat. But as the war continued through spring, reality began to show its limits. The battlefield is not a test range. It is unpredictable and unforgiving. BBC News confirmed that at least 2 Abrams tanks were struck by Russian Lancet loitering munitions, suffering heavy damage but not total loss. In both cases, the tanks were stationary after firing, their heat signatures visible to drone operators above. The attacks caused fires on the exterior but did not penetrate the crew compartment. The incidents prove that while Abrams armor is strong, no vehicle is fully safe in a sky full of drones. The export version of the Abrams sent to Ukraine lacks depleted uranium armor and active protection systems like Trophy or Iron Fist. That makes it more vulnerable to top attack weapons, missiles or drones that strike from above. According to the Defense Post, crews have responded by using camouflage nets, infrared decoys, and rapid relocation tactics to confuse Russian drones. These adjustments have helped reduce losses, but they also show how survival now depends as much on adaptation as on raw armor thickness. Another challenge is logistics. Each Abrams burns nearly 3 gallons of fuel per mile, and maintenance requires trained specialists and imported spare parts. Reuters noted that supply lines for fuel and parts stretch back through Poland, making long deployments difficult. Crews often limit movement to short operations, using the tanks more like precision artillery on tracks, rather than breakthrough weapons. Mechanics have also adapted field workshops to handle the tank's turbine engine, which differs completely from the diesel engines used in Soviet models. Despite all these challenges, operational readiness remains high. Ukrainian officials told Business Insider that most Abrams returned to service after minor repairs, proving their durability under real combat conditions. Even damaged tanks were recovered, repaired, and redeployed within days. Crews praised the Abrams' internal safety systems, which automatically shut down fuel lines and prevent explosions inside the turret. As one soldier put it, "You may lose a tank, but not the crew." The results, however, are mixed. The Abrams has shown its power and precision, but it has not transformed the battlefield overnight. Its heavy fuel use, complex maintenance, and limited numbers make it a specialist weapon, not a game changer. It performs best when used in coordination with drones and artillery, not as a lone spearhead. Still, every mission adds valuable data, teaching Ukraine how to fight a modern mechanized war under constant drone surveillance. In the end, Abrams tanks have proven resilient but not invincible. They stand as both a symbol of Western support and a reminder that technology alone cannot win a war. Their presence on the front lines changes tactics, boosts morale, and tests new doctrines in real time. But the question remains: will this firepower reshape the war's direction, or simply show the limits of even the world's best machines? The clash near Chasiv Yar lasted just 25 minutes, yet its echoes continue to shape the war. What began as a routine Russian advance ended with their lines broken by a single Abrams-Bradley formation, a moment Forbes called the most visible sign of Western precision on the Eastern Front. Within those few minutes, Ukraine proved that skill, speed, and coordination can defeat heavier numbers. Reuters later reported that Russian units withdrew in disarray, leaving wrecks across the field. This was more than victory. It was a turning point showing that Moscow's armor no longer defines dominance. The war's future now belongs to adaptability, not mass. If you want to keep following every major shift in modern warfare, subscribe to Military Force, where we reveal the real stories behind the machines that shape history.